Welcome to the Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I am Kristen Johnson.
And we are having a pretty exciting night.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys were watching Perfectly Normal Paranormal Communications. Mr. Reggie Randall. Mr. Reggie Randall was out there at Broadhead Manor with Christy, and they were doing some investigating, and that was really cool live for everyone to see. That was awesome. That was really cool. I know at least some of you are out there were watching that with us. I see.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Nikki.
Hey, George. What's going on, buddy? Nikki. Hey, let's rock. Yeah, right on. Linda Judd, you were there for that.
Thank you.
That was all kinds of conversation going on. The spirits, Reggie is a ghost magnet. Anne-Marie Young.
Hello, beautiful.
What's going on, Mort?
Hi, Mort.
Echoes out there. What's happening? Aliens land and say, take me away from your leaders. Absolutely. It's spot on, my friend. Spot on. We got a great show for you, as usual, as we were hinting about in the last one.
Oh, yes.
We've got the one, the only, Dr. Michael Lynch coming on. Let's bring him on right away. And something to say to the good doctor.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing tonight, sir?
Welcome back.
Doing real good. And I do have, it's not a tie-dye tie. It's what we call a painted tie. Because one time I was on and a guest and there was something about where's my tie-dye tie? And I didn't have one. So I had to find one. So this is, this will go with my poster in the back here. So anyway, that's as close as I can get to a tie-dye tie.
Is that a Jerry Garcia tie?
I don't know what this is.
I
just got this a long time ago.
Garcia tie. That's pretty cool. It's,
it is.
Got a little psychedelic. Not
hey everybody. Hey, Echo Leaf, if that's your real name. If that's your not CIA code handle there. Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking good there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my background is pretty fancy, and I will go over that some tonight. Mm-hmm. As we're going to talk about immortality. But I do have a little news clip I want to drop in. You'll see this on my on the new show, Off the Cuff, even though I didn't get into it as well as I would like to, because all of the footage and photos were copyrighted. So I couldn't touch it. I couldn't touch the raw footage. But I did like Reginald running around and giving us a good feel of the place. That was a great in the field reporting, which is
absolutely
which I really respect. But that's to me that's mandatory, is to get the evidence, reveal it as fast as you can during the investigation, and then go back and then process all that, because people want to know what it's like when you're actually there.
That's right.
Yes.
Another guy that's been out in the field is Ken Allen from the Wizards Table.
I had to sing it. The Wizards Table. He sings Bigfoot and the Bunny Elephant.
And that's just the thing we got. I'm sorry.
Sorry to squirrel.
Yeah.
Doug, what's going on, buddy?
Hi, Doug. It's great to see you out there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I love the field reporting. And he's out there. We're hearing, spirits live from that. Last night we did a session.
Oh man.
We had Kristen and doing Estes method. We had Reggie out in Wisconsin, I believe, and his box was like live, and his box was talking to Kristen, and Kristen's hearing shit, and she's talking. It was out of this.
That was one of the weirdest Estes method.
Myself and Emery Young were on to moderate.
Yep.
It was really fun.
It was really weird.
My question is, was it instantaneous?
Yeah,
it was.
It was called impromptu paranormal banter.
Yes, very good. And
I put on the blindfold and the
blindfolds.
headphones.
Yeah, I think I saw that one. I think I caught a few minutes of that, and then had to go and do something else. But yeah, you will find that if Reggie records it in his location, which is thousands of miles away from your location,
right,
it will be instantaneous. Your banter will be almost as if you're in the same room.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. That's because we're in a tachyon field, and every thought becomes instantaneous from the transmitter to the receiver. Okay.
Right.
So they could be in this. Okay. Now with a psychic, we get to ideas of relative location. So the entity could be in the room. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or the entity could be in your room with you, and their voice goes back and is recorded on Reginald's device. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But normally they're with Reggie, but they're listening to you and they're reacting instantaneously, almost simultaneously. But it's instantaneous because that's the tachyon field. That's the tachyon field. Okay. Well, everybody thinks that,
in that field, it's
mm-hmm.
kind of like the dream state or the astral state where you're just not
right,
bound to the rules, the Newtonian physics.
Right. The rules change because we're in a frequency of energy that supports and propagates mental thought.
Yes.
Okay. And then that is an amplification device. Right. Heard it in real time. Yeah, that's the whole idea. It's an amplification device that gets the signal, the transmission, and the signal together to make it receive. So if you have like a ham radio or old CB radio, you would have to, click a button, transmit, and then your voice was the signal inside the signal. So your voice is the data, and the electronics was the transmitter. So it was actually in that field of RF bandwidth of an old CB, citizen band radio, and you could actually go back and forth almost instantaneously. And that's the same idea. It's the same idea. It's just the tachyons propagate through the entire universe. So that's why everything is instantaneous. Now
time doesn't matter, right? So I think once we get out of like the three dimensions, you start getting to the time dimensions, get into these things. How does that tachyon field relate to time?
Right. There is no time. There's never been any time. Einstein, he was lazy. He was a lazy kid. He was a lazy ass child. Okay. Time, there is no such thing as time. It never. There's only particle decay. Particle decay is the only time that we have. It's the only time we can base anything on. Okay. Einstein used time as a coordinate point location. Where is it in space? Well, it's in space. Okay. It's in space at a coordinate, but he was using the time because he was lazy, and he was using time to watch its progression. Okay. Which is stupid. Because there's no such thing as time. And once you realize that, because it's all free-flowing energy, you have to go by coordinate, spatial coordinate. And then that is how you record a particle in time, or a particle in distance and location. So it's kind of hard to explain, but let's think you have a square. I have a square box, a transparent square box. Inside that square box is a particle, planet, anything you want is in that square box. And as that particle moves through that square box, you can slice off, like an MRI, you can slice off a quadrant of where it's going to move, up, down, side, right. And that's a quadrant. That's not time. That's not time. Einstein got that wrong because he thinks that, okay, if I have a stopwatch, I can virtually record everything with a stopwatch, which was time, but that was only its rate, not its coordinate in space. So he didn't understand three dimensions very well. I mean, and there's been this guy from Africa, and he has got the Nobel Prize for putting the third dimension into Einstein's equations so that we can actually get rid of time finally and get back to the coordinate values of space relationships.
Well, I can't do the math. I am thinking about what you're saying, and a little bit of smoke coming out of the headphones out of the side here because
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And a point of space, time, and I've had some energy drinks.
A lot.
And time actually working like a wave. Like we talk about particles and waves. Maybe just going through, and you're at the coordinate point, and the wave is passing through you, and that's our perception.
No,
I don't know. How am I wrong?
Okay. Time is not a wave. Gravity is a wave.
Right.
Space photons are waves. Everything in matter or energy is a wave.
Frequency is a
unless
wave.
it's observed.
Vibration is a wave.
Right,
Yeah.
because the vibration of it is its frequency. So I've got my little UFO ship here. It is it's resonating at a certain frequency. That frequency is different because the resonation creates a torrid field around it that releases it from gravity. The torrid field increases and decreases, which makes it a coordinate in space. Where is it located? But it has no time. There's no time associated with it.
That's the part that confounds people, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's
Right.
why-
It's a major problem.
Right. And
So
Linda
that's-
brings up the point, light is both a wave and a particle, and that's right.
Right.
It depends on whether it's being observed, and as has been shown by
As
the
our-
double slit experiment,
Exactly.
where they
And
blast protons and electrons
and
through
you
slits, and whether it's observed or not is how it behaves.
now they want to go back to the double split experiment and say you can't observe it. No observation. So just let it run on its own. Okay. And we don't observe it. But then how are we going to measure it?
Right. It's like the cat in the box there. You know?
Schrödinger's cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 50-50. So the deal is that, okay, when we observe everything, it acts one way. It acts a certain way. And then when we don't observe it, then it acts a different way. Well, that's because we are putting parameters by our own observation on related particle matter in space. That's why they're trying to throw out the double slit experiment and do it with a computer, measure it or monitor it with a computer, which is still an observation. So if they throw out human observation of the quantum double split experiment, that means they have to throw out all the sciences because they're all observational sciences.
It's
you see
theorized. Yes, we understand
yes,
that.
Right,
Schumann. Now the Schumann resonance, what it vibrates or at
7.5 hertz. Yeah. From the earth. The earth. Yeah.
Every day, all day long. That's what the
Yes.
Schumann resonance is.
Yes. And that's what our bodies require. We have to have that resonance or we don't function very well.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Exactly.
the energy level. Yeah. So okay, where's all this going? Okay, well, I didn't mean to take you too far afield here.
Oh no, this is great. Please go.
But let me get back to the point I was trying to make. Okay. Now, we all have heard about the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki that came to Earth, supposed to have created or modified man, hybridized him so that he could be a workforce for their gold situations. Okay, we all know that it was about 437,000 years ago. 430,000 years ago. Okay, now.
Real question, real quick before you say that. Why do you say it's 437,000 years? Is that because of the King's List you're thinking of, or?
Correct. Okay.
We'll have to get on that another time, but yes.
Yeah, we'll get on that another time. But okay, so
get back to our ancestors, please.
Right. Okay, so here's the deal. Now, if you watch the show Ancient Aliens, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are always picking up the pieces. They're on a trail, and they're picking up pieces. Mm-hmm. The Pyramid of Giza. Sacsayhuaman,
yes.
Some places in Brazil. Okay, they're picking up the breadcrumbs as they go. Okay, well, I got tired of that after about 3 or 4 years. And I said, okay, there's got to be something left. And there are some things left from the Anunnaki left over. And this is not myth. This is not legend. This is an actual archaeological site.
Yes.
Okay.
Most definitely.
It's called the Sage Wall in Montana. The Sage Wall or the
SAGE Sage Wall.
Sage Wall. And the other one is called the Giants Playground. The Giants Playground. Now, there are structures there that are not natural. They've been built on top of something that was natural. But these walls were 250 feet tall. And they were to keep the dinosaurs and other animals, mastodons, whatever else was in that area out. Okay. So the Anunnaki left the Middle East. They subdivided the globe, Africa, Brazil, North America, some parts of Canada, but they were still under ice. Well, at that time, they may not have been under ice because the earth hadn't shifted yet. So anyway, they go to this area just north of Billings, Montana, and they put up a whole superstructure. And they had about 7,000 human labor force. And the Anunnaki that was given that area was to search for gold in that entire area. And so a lot of Montana still has gold in it, just like California, just like Alaska. And they sit down and they built a fortress and they started mining gold. Okay.
Okay.
Now what they did was they put up these large stones for the walls, and they made them so they would not go forward or backward.
Are they monolithic type stones?
Yeah, monolithic. Yeah. Now there's a girl named Julie Ryder, right? Yeah, Julie Ryder, and she claims that they're Cyclopean structures. They're not Cyclopean. Cyclopean structures is what's on Malta. It's very old, but it's what's on Malta. Those are Cyclopean. Okay, these are hundreds of years older. Okay, now here's the thing. Now you get onto me. Everyone gets onto me about tachyons, right? Okay, if you know that tachyons, hi Liz, if you know that tachyons help your cells stay healthy and subdivide, which that's what they really do, then you can go to Billings, Montana, the Mineral Museum of Billings, Montana. Inside you'll find a 2 foot tall crystal that they found at the Sage Wall. Now there is a lot more of these crystals, but this one vibrates in pure tachyon wavelengths, and they don't even know it. And it was left over by the Anunnaki. The structures that are there and the Giants Playground are all built by the Anunnaki. So with the human labor force.
What makes them think that this is Anunnaki structures? And
well, because there's no other structure that is like this and is older than all other structures. Because the Orions built the structures we know today as ancient alien structures, which of course they were alien, they were from Orion. But the Anunnaki structures have been wiped clean because, as you'll look on the King's List, there's a gap where the flood comes in, wipes them out, and they leave Earth. And it says right below after the flood, they returned. The gods returned from the sky and landed again and took up gold mining.
I believe that's what the term is sky gods.
Yeah, sky gods are those that have come from heaven. And so the thing is that, okay, ancient aliens has been following these breadcrumbs of possible tachyons, possible crystals, possible structures. And von Däniken was invited to go to Brazil, and he went to this area in Brazil, which was supposed to be the oldest known civilization in Brazil. Okay, but if you look at that is no different than what's in Vietnam, the middle, Asia, Asia Minor, and Japan. The structures of platform farming go to Machu Picchu. It's the same idea, same concept. And those are same thing. Teotihuacan, right? It's all new. It's new ways of doing the same thing over. Okay, so it's platform farming. So anyway, okay. But the deal is that at Sacsayhuaman and other places around Peru and Bolivia, you'll find the walls that have these so-called big stones, and they're been polished and put into place.
Yeah, it's amazing the way they fit.
Okay, those are geopolymer stones. Pumapunku is a geopolymer brick. Like they took the stone and they ground it into a powder. They mixed some type of calcium and something else together. Anyway, and they made the stones for the temple at Pumapunku. And that was not by the Indians at Tiwanaku. They had no concept of Pumapunko. Okay, so if you go to the Sage Wall and the Giant's Playground, they have geopolymer coatings on most of the stones. They also have stones made of geopolymer stones. So
what is that?
We have to break this down for a second.
Yeah. What, okay. Let's break that down. What is the geopolymer?
Okay. It's where they take, let's say you have a limestone. Okay. And it's pretty solid, but you want to give it a covering. So instead of using like house paint, like we would do, we would put paint on there. They would take
shellac.
Like stucco. Yeah. It's like a stucco. They would take something else, calcium, granite, something with, some crystal in it, crystalline, and then they would grind it all down into a powder, a paste, and they would mix it back up as a concrete. And then they would put the concrete on the stones. Okay. They would just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Now you'll find several stones at the Giant's Playground. That is all they are, is geopolymer concrete that they have just stacked, just kept on putting on layer and layer and layer. Now, Julie Ryder has a piece of the geopolymer covering, and she stole it, but we're not supposed to say that very loud. I know. She stole it. She's not putting it back. But anyway, when she gives a tour, she has it in her hand, and she will put it back like a puzzle piece back on the wall with other geopolymer covering. So what is happening is that you have a soft stone in the center, in the middle, and then you cover it with a harder stone on the outside. Mm-hmm. And then you design it so it doesn't go forward and it doesn't come back. So it only can go side to side, but there's nothing between the joints. So that means it's earthquake proof. It'll just, if it cracks, it's not going to crack the mortar. It just the stones are just covered and they're just butted up against each other. So there is no fracturing in the mortar joint because there is no mortar. They're not really connected.
Right. Are you saying that's what's going on at Pumapunko?
No, it's
or just the same wall in Giant's Playground?
Just at the Giant's Playground. Now, Pumapunko was wiped out because of a flood. Pumapunko was buried because Lake Titicaca flooded and went that direction and destroyed the temple of Pumapunko.
Yeah, it was like an earthquake, and
yeah, and then that was that scenario. So if anyone's
the tight fitting rocks and you can't fit a credit card, that kind of
hair. Right. Now Pumapunko is like Legos. They kind of fit together like Legos. The H stones and all the other decorative stones went together as just like Legos would fit together. And we don't see that anywhere except in well, we don't see that anywhere. They actually, in the newer development, when they put paver stones together, they put in a metal alloy, which locked the stones together. So they didn't use any inner mortar stuff. They used what we call a staple. They used a staple, and this staple is made out of unique materials, which are not really found locally, but they're made of iron and nickel and a little bit of lead, and they had to be heated and then poured into the carving of the staple. So, so they actually carved out a little image,
key shape, like
key shape, right?
Yeah. So it's like a T,
it's T on each side.
Lock them together.
Call it, but
and then when the metal dried, it just locked them together. So if there was an earthquake, they couldn't separate. They could twist, but they could not separate. And if you put enough of these locks or these staples together in a larger and larger area, the whole thing doesn't move. But if I just use mortar, if I just put down stones and put mortar between them, and an earthquake happens, they just twist. It just twists all out. Well, the next time we see these staples is in Rome, where they started stapling. The stones together. And when they built Rome, the first time they designed Rome, they used staples. But the lead in the staples started to leak into the marble and the limestone. So what they did was they would staple everything together, then they would put this facade of marble on the outside, and it was virtually just glued on, it was just virtually hanging there to cover up the damage of the staples. So Rome constantly was going under modifications. Okay. And if you go back to 16 something, maybe 17 something, they actually went to the arena, and started taking it apart to get the iron out of it, the iron staples out of the arena to melt them down to make weapons. And that's why when you go and look at the arena today in Rome, those holes are there. It's because they started chipping away at their own history and pulled out the iron to make guns and weapons and bullets and stuff. Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the other time. But the staples in Peru, the staples at the great at the Sphinx temples, all of this was older than Rome, but Rome copied the idea and then installed it into their construction. And that's why a lot of people get confused on times. But if you look at a structure that is interlocking and yet has no staples and yet is earthquake proof, the only way it can be buried is by mud, buried in mud.
Okay, so we have a question out there with that.
Okay,
Steve,
I'm sorry. I don't have the thing up. So anyway,
no,
go ahead.
no, it's okay. Don't be sorry. It's okay. Stephen Woodward asked, does anyone believe about the Great Mud Flood?
Do you know about the Great Mud Flood?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. There are sites all over the Middle East where there is a foot of mud, and they have dug down, especially like in ancient wells or archaeological digs, and they found a foot of mud that's there, and that's left from the flood, and that's in the King's List. So the flood actually existed. It's just the timing of it that we are in controversial about. It's just, when did that really happen? Okay, so the if you hate to just jump here, but in the Younger Dryas period, there's a layer of ash that is in the strata. And we can find that ash almost all over the planet.
Yeah, and sample cores everywhere, all over the planet, Antarctica, everywhere.
And the same thing is with the mud. And so somehow the mud came from the ocean or lakes or whatever and came up on the land. The water did. And with it came debris, like a tsunami. And the tsunami brought in the mud. Okay, but we're not talking, okay. If I just say tsunami, everyone's going to go poo hoo hoo. But let me just say one thing. What if you're on a ball and the ball shifts 15 degrees?
You're screwed.
You're screwed.
You're screwed, basically.
The water comes in with the mud and debris, and it covers everything that is known to man instantly. There's no, okay. I have a David Hatcher Childress. David Hatcher Childress said one time, and I just he is right on target. We would not have fossils in our museums. We would not have fossils in the rock of strata if they had died naturally. The only reason why we have fossils is because they were buried alive.
Right.
In several different episodes, they were buried alive. The reason why we have fossils today is because, and he gives the example, Wild Bill Cody went out and shot a bunch of buffalo. And got his name, Wild Bill Cody,
He did.
He shot buffalo. Okay. Those buffalo were out there in the field and just died and just decomposed. And so the white man goes out there and skins the animal and leaves the body there, the carcass there. That didn't fossilize. That just went away. It just disappeared, right? Okay. So the only way we can have dinosaur bones, the only way we can have mastodon bones, or the only way we can have the Siberian zone of death, is if the earth shifted on its axis and the water came up and drowned everyone.
Right. We agree.
Okay. So if you go to Billings, Montana, and drive 30 minutes north, you'll see an old resident Anunnaki fortress with a tachyon crystal 2 feet tall in one of their museums.
That's so wild. I want to go. Well,
yeah, it's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list. I'm going to do it. Okay. That our ancient civilization technology was buried by the flood. Okay. I'm going to add to this. Okay, Stephen, you're right on target here. There was an old Russian psychic called Madame I can't. Blavatsky. That's it. That's her. All right, Madame Blavatsky. Okay, and she was paid by, guess what? A bunch of multimillionaires to find Atlantis because they wanted the technology of Atlantis, and they wanted to go and find it and make money off of it. So they had this Madam Psychic go out there and get a map and try to psychically hone where Atlantis was. Well, after she figured out it was in the middle of the Atlantic, well, no one had the technology or the time, but that didn't stop them. Because in the 1930s, there was a whole group of people, multimillionaires at the time, Rothschilds and railroad magnates and you name it, from all over the world. And they were funding expeditions to go out and find this lost technology. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so the 30s roll around and Hitler needs a wonder weapon. So what does he do? He tells Goebbels and that other idiot, but anyway, he tells them to go out and find these wonder weapons. Well, they send out teams all over everywhere. North Africa, Egypt, Mesopotamia, go find the Aryan race, the pure source, and then go find this ancient technology. Okay.
Yes.
And they run around, and the Indiana Jones stories are virtually true, where they run around and they try to dig up this lost technology.
Sure.
Well, when
blow to them,
and once they get it, once they get it, they say, okay, we can rule the world. We've got the Spear of Destiny. We've got some crystals from Atlantis, or supposedly whatever. So they think that these things can rule the world, but they're working on a different type of physics because it's dealt with energy, not shoot 'em up gang, bullets and gunpowder. It's dealing with energy that they don't understand. Okay, so when a UFO does fall out of the sky and lands at Hitler's feet, and they rip it apart and they try to get it to have anti-gravity and all this other stuff, they still don't know what's going on. So then they develop psychics called the Vril Society with Maria Ostrich, and they download information from Aldebaran, because that's an Aldebaran UFO, which is a lie. But anyway, they download information from Aldebaran to put a UFO back together. Reverse engineer. And they became very successful, except time ran out.
Wasn't that Declaca?
Yeah, that was the bell. Yeah, Declaca. Yeah, now Von Braun and his cohort, I can't remember the other guy's name, but the other guy, he had a mustache and stuff like that, and they were in NASA. They had this Declac. They had the bell with them after the war. So somehow it got to America, and then they launched it somehow, and then it landed in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and then that's what the acorn at Kecksburg, Pennsylvania is all about. So
Jack Kilowatt has a question for you. Asked, do we think that the Great Flood was caused by a magnetic pole shift? If so, the planet may have stopped spinning, which would cause global flood, and then the water recedes, leaving the mud.
The question
is, yeah,
which Great Flood? The one from 2,000 years ago? Exactly. There was a bunch of them. So
yeah, we've had several, and that's the question. Which one was it? Now, one
talking about the mud flood. It's going back. I'm trying to catch up.
Well, the mud flood was probably the Great Flood. That's why the King's List has a gap in it, because they left. It was going to be so devastating that they left, and so when the Earth shifted under the Hapgood principle, when the Earth shifted, That's what really caused it. But when did it happen? And did we have other things in between? Yes, we did. So let's say we go back 100,000 years, or let's say 200,000 years, and we had the Great Flood. Okay, the Great Flood that we understand. Then after that, we had a shift of the Earth. We had the zone of death being created. Everything was being flash frozen under ice, and then the continental shelf, the actual ice shelf, starts to melt, and voila, we have America, because America was virtually the North Pole at one time. So the glaciers start to recede, and then humans from Asia kind of come over, and
Are you talking about the Bering Land Bridge?
Yeah, that's only it's
I don't know.
That's iffy. That's not all that's there.
No,
but
now mainstream scientists are talking about the Clovis people, and now the Clovis people that's not. Then actually, we talk about New Mexico. As a matter of fact, Stephen Woodward.
Right. Okay. Also, Chris Madrid mentions
Chaco Canyon. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Chaco Canyon, Clovis, all of this. All these was way after.
Yeah.
Way after. Now, okay. Now I want to throw something out here, which no one's going to understand, but I did my research. So what the deal is that imagine for a second, your entire civilization is wiped out. Just imagine for a second, and you and 100, 200 people survive, or you're in a spacecraft and you come to Earth and you can't leave. So the first thing you're going to do is look for food and medicines,
right?
Because your medicine and your food's going to run out very quickly. Okay, so what do? You try herbal medicines. That's the first thing you do.
Hell yeah!
Get that cauldron out.
Yeah. And then you go back to energy medicines. And before acupuncture, there was another older medicine that worked on your chi, on your energy centers. Okay. And it goes back even further than that. And on a 14,000-year-old piece of silk, it was embroidered how to cure people using your chi. Where do we get this? Laying of hands. Right.
Right. It's like Reiki.
Right. Because you have no other medicines. So there's only one group in China that can cure people by holding their hands. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, so let's say your civilization is wiped out. You have to look for food. You have to look for medicines. You have to look for building structures. And your environment may be better than somebody else's. So you have an advantage, an instant advantage, because you're not totally wiped out. Okay, so other people didn't have that. So what they did was decivilized. They digressed in their civilization. They didn't replace the medicines. They altered their diet. They had to look for stone tools to fight and survive, right? A saber-toothed tiger or whatever. So the whole thing boils down to one civilization survived by chance. Other civilizations collapsed, and then they had to rebuild themselves. And when we come across like the Sovians, the Clovis people, a bunch of these other guys, that is because their civilization collapsed completely. They had nothing but wood and stone. That's all they had to work with.
Yes.
So there's no way there's a number of people to build these edifices. Okay, there was not enough people, and there was not enough food, and there was not enough time in the day to build these edifices like Stonehenge. Okay, because why? The earth had not calmed down. The earth had not calmed down.
Do you think something was lost, right?
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So
Let me
hands, right? We're just kind of coming back to that with Reiki and that sort of thing, like rediscovering these kind of technologies. I'm going to put that in like finger quotes, technologies, right?
Right.
Things that we knew a long time ago.
Yes, exactly.
You see people that have near-death experiences, have alien abduction experiences, these sort of things. They come back with more psychic gifts.
That's right.
Because like, wow, people say we're learning what we forgot. Is that what we're really doing?
Yeah. Because we've been genetically altered to forget. And that is a disposition that, puts us just above the animals. So the thing is that we've been designed to only have a certain lifespan, to only have a certain IQ, to only be able to retain most of our brain, our functional brain. But to be the super giants, the super geniuses, the super whatever, no, it came from off world. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. That's why they came back every now and then. The Hopi, the Navajo, and all this other stuff. Yeah. The Anasazi. Okay. The thing about Chaco Canyon was that it was developed and designed so they knew the time of the year and the time that they could harvest and collect water. And that's why Chaco Canyon is designed this way. So it's a water reserve as well as a seed reserve, a silo reserve. And so that people could gather water when it rained, preserve it in a cistern type idea, and then also plant the seeds to keep the civilization alive.
And like a Noah's Ark.
Like a Noah's Ark. But the weather changed. The same thing happened in Nazca, Peru. The weather changed and became more arid and dry. And so no matter what solar observations they did, no matter what lines in the sand they put down, no matter what hieroglyphs they put in the sand, the gods didn't come back. Right. And so the Anasazi virtually just started to wander off, just to leave. And whatever they built, they just said, okay, well, we're done here. And you'll see farmers back in the Dust Bowl of the 1930s leaving their farms because the Dust Bowl, the dust had come in and buried all the topsoil and all of their crops and all of their homes, and they couldn't keep it out. And that was the same thing. They just gave up and just went into picking oranges or whatever else in California. They just got up and walked out. And that's what a lot of people will have to come to terms with. You're leaving the technology behind in order to survive.
Right. It's the same thing with animals. Animals can't find water or anything, food. Yeah. They go and they migrate somewhere else.
Yeah. Look at the armadillo. The armadillo was the Texan little critter.
Yes.
You only find it in Texas or maybe New Mexico. Armadillos, right?
A bunch of them. Yes.
I got them right up here. I mean, I'm in the Midwest. 10 miles south of St. Louis, you'll hit an armadillo.
Come on.
I'm not kidding.
Migrated that far?
Yeah, they migrate because the food is better. They can get grubs and little insects and all that stuff and roll around and just have a field day. They can't do that in Texas now. There's no food like that. There's no grub worms. There's nothing that they really, and so they get up here with no natural predators and they just boom, explode.
Yeah. It's like a triggerfish up our way.
Yeah.
We're in New England and we have triggerfish now, which is a tropical fish that you would typically find in a saltwater aquarium. Yeah, you might keep in your house because they live in tropical waters, but the Gulf Stream has just gotten warmer through the years. Now they're up in New England. They eat the scallops up here who never had this as a predator, making scallops more valuable.
Right. Man has done a lot of bad things to his own environment. That's for sure. But if nature wants to shift or change or twist, we've got to go along for the ride.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in man's psyche at this time to say, I'm going along for the ride. So we try to fight against this. And there's no way in the world, because why? We have evidence all over the world that the mud came in, that the ash fell, that the Younger Dryas took place. And man is just along for the ride. There's no way. And, we can talk about the rapture, and we can talk about a bunch of other stuff.
before the show, we were talking a little bit about energy.
Oh.
We were going to.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
energy.
Don't
and
be sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I get off.
The nature of energy cannot be, destroyed.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we wanted to talk about maybe how this affected, the world of paranormal. And,
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now everyone wants to be immortal. Everybody, Zeus wants to be immortal. All the gods of Egypt want to be immortal. Everybody wants immortality, right? But you can't have it when you're in this container, because my body has something called entropy. Okay. It heats up and it bleeds out energy. So I can't control that. That's just your body temperature, your body heat is just your energy just going out and going out. So when we talk about immortality, we're talking about a kind of a spiritual consciousness sense. So if you look at the laws of thermodynamics, especially the first laws, if you have a closed system where energy cannot escape and there is no entropy, it's just pure energy inside of a closed system, then it cannot degrade and it cannot change. So that energy is spherical, let's say it's in a sphere, and it's bouncing around constantly. But since there's no entropy and it's in a constant state and there is no change to that constant state, that is by definition, quantum immortality. And that's the whole idea about immortality. We cannot obtain it in this body, but we can obtain it in energy. So as soon as we leave our bodies and we become pure energy, we then become not only immortal, our time stops.
Right.
Because we're only energy. So if we're moving at the speed of light, what does Einstein say? Our time is zero. So we are a bundle. No, wrong way. This one. We're a bundle of energy.
We understand.
We're a bundle of energy, and it does not have the ability to break down or change, and it cannot be transferred very well. Okay, so that by definition, by all the states of physics and thermodynamics, we gain immortality only, right? Our minds are our consciousness, right? And the consciousness state is the only way we can obtain pure immortality, because why? There is no time, and it's constantly energy feeding back on itself into a loop.
Absolutely.
And therefore it does not degrade. So so a lot of people are talking about different things, but if they would see it as that person died in 1695, well, he's the same as he was in 1695 as he is today, because there is no time. If you're energy, your time becomes zero, and therefore your status of energy is consistent. Therefore,
it makes sense.
It's immortal. We're immortal. So, so anyone who says that your state of consciousness is not immortal, or it fades away, or there's no such thing, then you guys need to go back to your basic laws of thermodynamics, and then explain that.
Basically, the math says we're immortal because the energy doesn't dissipate; it just changes forms.
Right. Now, if we're we can go under electroshock therapy, we can fry our brains, we can do whatever. But that's right. But that's dealing with a system that is not contained. My body is not containing anything. I mean, it's losing energy all the time. That's why I have to eat all the time.
Right.
We're burning it up biochemically. But even if you change or think you're trying to change your consciousness, your mind, it's impossible. It's an impossibility.
We navigate the matrix, my friend.
Right. Now you can change some parts of your personality, some parts of psycho conditioning. You can try to get the habits of wealthy people. or whatever. You can adopt whatever you want, but you're not changing the fundamental energy or composition of your consciousness. You're just adapting a different behavior. That's all. And that doesn't change anything except, do I drink coffee or do I drink tea? Do I do 10 push-ups or do I do 100 push-ups? And these things are conscious decisions, but the consciousness itself is its own bailiwick, its own thing. And that's why my consciousness differs not only in energy, but performance than yours. And my body changes, and it is only, it's different than yours. So consciousness can be very complex, or it can be very individualized. And that's what we think of it today, is that consciousness is individualized for your DNA, your composition of your body, so that you can move your fingers and wiggle your toes and all that stuff.
Right. It's got to be bigger than the five senses, though, right? If you're thinking consciousness is just limited to those five senses, and this is it, and we're top of the food chain, I think you're making a big mistake.
Oh, yeah.
You're not seeing a bigger picture there.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's got to be more to it than this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have this thing with our eyes. I don't mean to squirrel, but I think I've told you this before. I have this thing with our eyes. We can only see what 33%.
Oh, less than that. Yeah, we listen.
I'm like, wait a minute. If I understand about the infrared and stuff like that, but what if we could actually see a little bit more? Just maybe I don't know, 40%.
That's your infrared.
Is there interdimensional? Would we be able to see that?
Okay.
When you go a little bit more, you can start getting into like the microwaves too.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
Right. If you can see microwaves, you would.
It's all electromagnetic wave.
Yeah.
But we only see a portion of it.
Exactly.
Right.
If you saw microwaves, if you could just go outside or whatever and could see microwaves, you would just see nothing but white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because there's that many different microwaves out there.
Right.
Understandable.
Yeah. I understand. There's 80,000 cell phone signals going through my body right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. When you get in an airplane, it triples,
Right.
So if you could see into certain spectrums, you would just be blind because there's so much of it. There's so much of it.
It's just everywhere. There's radio waves all around us.
Right. Now there is
with eyes, you know what I mean? That's what I wonder about all the time is there another dimension we actually couldn't see, but we can if we had more ability?
Well, I'm going to get to that. But I'm going to do this first.
Like another set of eyes or something. I don't know. Something.
No.
Another stupid.
They've done this with children. And they're trying to get adults to adapt to this. But what they've done is they've taken children and then they blindfolded them. Mm-hmm. And they would say, okay, in the middle of the room is a stack of books. You can pull out any book you want. And so the kids went and pulled out the stack of books. There was 4 of them. They all were blindfolded. They didn't know what book they had or anything like that. They opened the book, or some of them didn't even have to open the book, but one of them opened the book and started reading the book. That's totally blindfold, could not see at all.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Okay. You've seen things like that. That is amazing, right? So what are they using there?
They're using their consciousness. That's they project it outside of their body, and they can see, because it doesn't require a human body does not require. I mean, we can see without the human body. We can hear without the human body.
Yes.
I mean, it's all the wavelengths are there. All of the systems are there. And so the body is just a buffer to slow things down so we can digest it mentally.
Right.
But once the consciousness comes out, what happens instantly is that it becomes telepathic instantly. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can read.
What is the point, though, of going through all this? All right, if we got to slow it down so our consciousness can wrap our little pea brains around it. If we were outside of that and everything made sense and we just had true free will, we'll get on that. What would be the point of contact? Do you have, has any data shown you what is the kind of the meaning of life?
Okay, the meaning of life is in the question, and that is that the meaning of life is life. That's it. Okay. It's your decision on how you want to perceive that, because you can either enjoy the life you've got or not enjoy the life you've got. You can, kill yourself slowly by smoking a pack of cigarettes every hour on the hour, or you can not do that and become a health junkie.
Maybe take time to stop and smell the roses.
Right. Exactly. Okay. We all have a conscious decision on how we want to conduct our life and how we want to see the world. So your perspective, because of your education, your background, your learning, will see the world differently than I. Sherlock Holmes will see the world differently than I will see it, because it's what you're looking for. And what you focus on, like the double split experiment, what you're focusing on takes shape. You see? So we are here because this is a playground, a Six Flags, a Busch Gardens in the galaxy. And we're supposed to enjoy all this. You see, This is our playground. This is our virtual playground. This is our amusement park. And this is my analogy. And so let's say I have a guardian angel, and the guardian angel and I go to Busch Gardens or Six Flags or Disney World or whatever. And so the guardian angel stands there at the side, and he watches me get on the roller coaster ride, and I go through the roller coaster. And I'm going up and down and screaming and yelling, and I'm making all these weird faces, and I get off. And the angel goes, "Man, what happened, Mike? Were you in pain, or were you in ecstatic jubilation? I saw your face contort and make all these strange things, like you were in pain and you were in ecstasy, and then you were like normal, and then you were like in pain again." And he says, "Is it okay?" And you go, "Man, that was the greatest ride of my life. I'm going to do it again." The angel the angel was watching me.
But my question is, why would he watch you? Wouldn't he go for a ride with you?
Because he doesn't experience the same thing I do. That's the difference. An angel doesn't understand the concepts of money.
That. Yeah, I understand that, but it's like they're with us all the time. Why wouldn't they go? God, I hope mine go with me when I do shit like that.
Well, you pray that they do.
Yes.
But in many cases, they don't understand that. And
they're not having a human experience.
Right.
It's because I have this fleshy thing that I experience. But just think, if you were on a roller coaster 100% of the time, going at such speeds that astronauts couldn't hardly handle, your brain would just blow up. I mean, your brain would have your body would just fall apart.
It's like an explosion. It was, and then
right. And so that's why the body is designed to slow things down, so we can kind of get a clue on what's going on. If we're going as fast as...
Let me bring up a question here from Anthony that says, if you crossed into another dimension, it's kind of what we're talking about, would you come back the same? So if you could take that body and cross into another dimension, I don't know. I think the physicality of the body, right, might be the restraint.
Yeah. There are certain dimensions we can't go to, because the strains on the human body would just blow it apart.
It's just like space, right?
Yeah, it's like space. Okay, so
or in water. Yeah.
So let's say there are other dimensions, which there are not. But anyway, let's just say that there are. Okay, every dimension that I go to, I would have to calculate on whether I can withstand those forces or not. And so, would my spaceship survive? Would my body survive? It's like going through a black hole. The odds are next to zero. Yeah. Because why? We're designed for this particular reality. Our bodies are. Now, our consciousness can go.
This biosphere.
Yes, it does go. Especially like if you're dreaming, astral dreaming, whatever. Right. Yeah.
If you ever kept fish, you got to keep that water just right, because then you're gonna little pH changes.
So there it is.
Good. If you grow certain plants, you got to keep the pH a certain way.
Yeah.
Linda Morrison says, I am playing this out loud in my house. When I say it, I am called crazy. When someone else says it, everyone shuts up and listens.
Oh,
I love that.
About what? About what?
I don't know. Talking interdimensional.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, okay.
Spirit guides, all this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I just need to back up because I know people don't talk about this at all. And I'll just throw this out. Okay. Around our universe is a 60 light year thick black shell. And in that black shell are the laws or the laws that propel our dimension into a Mallinbrot set. Okay. A fractal geometry. Okay. This black shell is, you might say, the governor, the bylaws of what happens inside of it. And so if the shell doesn't change, nothing inside the universe can change. If the shell gets added something new, then that relates or translates down into our universe, and voila, we have something new.
Something new is what? Like what? Into
an extra layer of physics, an extra layer, an extra dimension. It could be anything. It could be anything. So the situation is, there's an old book and it's called Flatland. It's not Flatland, the new book. It's the Flatland, the old book. And it's where everything's on a plane. Everything is flat on a plane. And then all the figures on there are just one dimensional. They're just like lines. When I look at them, they're just like lines because it's all flat. It's flat. But then you have a circle come in and goes into the plane. And then all of a sudden people think it's getting bigger because it's, in the middle of the plane. It looks like it's getting bigger. And then when it goes up, it looks like it's getting smaller and then just disappears. Right. And everyone goes, wow, where did it go? And the sphere goes, I just went up.
That's two dimensions looking at three.
Right. Exactly. So, they have no concept of each other.
Everything is flat, and then you go up.
It can only see from its perspective.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So the same thing applies with, you might say, relatively physics. There's certain things we cannot do because the laws of physics prevent that from happening. Let's go back a little bit. Now, if we were on a different, like I said,
let's look at that where it goes into the paranormal, right? So we're kind of paranormal show. We're talking about like seeing an apparition and that sort of thing. There are times that people do see a thing that doesn't have a body, right? Which doesn't even make sense. Right. Like, how do we do it? Light can't reflect off of it. How is it that sometimes, and I know I saw some great video from Stephen Woodward last year from the Fear Fest Paracon.
Yes. Of
an apparition walking across the floor at the what do you call that? Oh God, help me here.
Salinas, Kansas.
So Salinas, Kansas, the Masonic Lodge.
That's it.
Lodge, and at Salinas, Kansas, was awesome looking, right? And how did that happen if it wasn't? We're going to put it finger quotes real, right? So
it is real. It's just vibrating at a different frequency. See, so that's where you get into vibration and frequency, things like that. But the idea is that it's memory, and memory collects the electrons in order to re-establish the former image of what it was. So if you have a full body apparition, which is basically 1% of all of the paranormal videos and photos I've ever seen, that 1% is because that consciousness relearned how to establish itself. And that's all done by its own memory. But that doesn't mean it can stay that way. It can be a dog, it can be a cat, whatever it wants. And the molecules and the energy that's required to do that conform to it automatically. It's the same thing as manifestation. It's the same thing as manifestation. I want something, I'm going to manifest it in my mind, and it's going to be there. Well, when an entity does it, they manifest their body. So the universe conforms to that manifestation, and voila, they have their body.
Yeah, conforms.
And it's from the inside out, and they manifest it from the inside out. Yeah.
On our own experiences, physics go Ari.
Oh,
and it happens
Stephen
in
Woodward
succession, and there seems to be a little chain of paranormal events, and it happens, and then it dissipates, and it's gone. It was like something happened, something changed. Newtonian physics no longer applied.
Nothing applied to that.
Could happen. I'm not going to go into the details of all
nope.
But we definitely had the experience. So, when you see this happen and your brain just, smoke comes out the ears again, you say, well, how did it happen? You're saying it's just simply the will of that entity, because why is its will greater than ours? Is it a greater species?
No, it's not greater. It has less resistance. Okay. My body is pushing 2 or 3 pints of blood through it every 20, 30 seconds. Okay, for me to run a mile or lift weights or whatever, it takes resistance. I have to force my body to do it. I am so slow, and it's like walking in water. Okay,
walking through mud.
You're walking through mud. You're walking because you're dragging all this extra baggage along. But now, wait a minute. I'm pure energy. I'm just like a fog. I'm a mist. So I can form anything I want. I can remember who I was. I can be somebody else's grandfather. I can find your weaknesses and exploit them. So if you're afraid of tarantulas, guess what I'm going to be? A tarantula. If you're afraid of Aunt Martha, guess who I'm going to? Guess what I'm going to look like? Aunt Martha.
So you're like stepping in rules? What are you talking about?
No,
yeah, I'm saying
that being outside of the biology, right? So you're talking about like when Rupert Sheldrake talks about morphic resonance.
Yes.
Which you talked a little bit about Rupert last time you were on the show. We're talking about this kind of memory being stored in a sort of field. And it's a good point. People always think it's the brain, but then you have from a physical 3D standpoint, somebody gets a heart transplant to get memories of the person receives the heart, right? Yeah. From where it came from. Right. You say, wow, it's out of the brain. So if you can go that far, maybe it can go to another level.
Right. Okay. So you have cellular memory. Okay. That's interesting. Or do you have frequency cellular memory? And this is what Rupert Sheldrake is talking about. Okay. So my heart in my body resonates at a certain frequency, and it has my memory. Okay, theoretically. Now, when I take that out and put it in somebody else that has a different frequency, different resonance, different memory, and I plug that in, okay, there's going to be some adjustment there. And that adjustment is acceptance. And that's why they give you a bunch of drugs so that your heart, that new heart transplant will be accepted. Okay, but you're also accepting whatever memory and frequency was that heart in the first place.
Right.
Savvy. Right. Okay. You get okay. Now let me tell you one more thing. Okay. Hey, Nathaniel, how you doing?
What's going on, buddy?
And okay. So we're all resonating in a different frequency, but when you're born, get this, when you're born and your body is not quite set up for your energy, for your consciousness, there's rejection. So as a zygote, as an embryo, your consciousness can reject that body. It doesn't have to go into it. Okay, because why? Your consciousness, like your subconscious, is in control of everything. And if it doesn't want to go into that body or that embryo or whatever, it doesn't have to.
Yeah. Well, let's rewind things back to Mary Shelley.
And wait. And then we can go with nurture and nature, nurture and nature, nurture and nature. And it's all thrown out because it's consciousness. Consciousness. That's the key.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Let's Mary Shelley it. Let's just talk Frankenstein. Possibility, right? So she says, let's take the dead bodies, we're going to put them together, we're going to sit there and put electricity through it, which we don't totally understand the electricity, especially then. Just know that it's electrons riding the wire. Any chance of that really happening? reanimating.
Yeah,
True.
I mean, if you're on the operating table, and your heart stops, they code you and then they shock you.
They do.
They do. That's a fact. So if someone said, "I've died for 5 minutes," that means they were being shocked until they were revived. So their heart started pumping again. And then that's what we base, we can have brain death, but they're basing that on a biological function. And so someone says, "Well, I died for 5 minutes and talked to Aunt Grace." Well, the doctor doesn't understand jack about that, because why? They're dealing with physical matter, not energy.
Right.
Not energy that's in your physical matter. They have no concept of it. Modern medical science could care less about the way you act or treat anybody, because they're not dealing with that. But at the same time, they will sell you a placebo. They will sell you and convince you that a placebo is the hardest medicine in the world, and you'll take that and you'll still have 50% response. So I can take an aspirin, and in my mind, I can say, this is the most diabolical cure-all in the world. And guess what?
Yeah.
My body will respond because my consciousness is in control of everything. And once I get rid of this baggage, then I can be anything. I can do anything, go anywhere. And it's all instantaneously coming into my brain, full force. People who've died for 5 seconds say they came back with stories of incredible. So after you listen to about 1,000 near-death experiences, you get to the point of saying the only reason why they're coming back and saying this is because their brain was at that frequency. That's it. That's all there is. They were at that frequency. They returned back to this container, and
meat bag
from those donors. Yeah, I feel it is. Yeah.
Well, Joshua says he has cadaver bones.
Yep.
Cadaver.
I
sound a little Bostonian there. Cadaver. Hey, you got those cadaver bones. From Maine. You got those cadavers in Maine.
All right.
Bones in all of my back. Is it possible I'm receiving messages from those donors? I feel it is.
Sure. Yeah. I don't understand. I don't see why not. Cellular memory and cellular structure, especially in the bones and teeth, are pure fractal geometry, pure fractal development. So they're receiving signals.
Chris Madrid said the same thing. There are cases where people who have received body parts, kidney, heart, whatever, start getting memories of the donor's life.
Yeah, we were talking about that with the heart.
Thing.
Yeah.
Flashback memories.
Yeah, it's DNA going into
it's energy. It's all energy. Okay. It's like called psychometry. Okay. Boy, God, this goes back a long way. Okay, so I have the amazing psychic pig.
Yes.
And if someone else had this before I did, then psychometry is meaning that they left their digital energy impression, their engram, emotional communication on this pig. And if I was a psychometrist or whatever, I could touch it and say, "Oh, it was Kristen that had this pig before me."
Right.
And then I would know immediately. Right. Because everywhere we go, we leave two things: DNA, dead skin cells, DNA, and energy. And then we can ingrain, we can put this into motion. Now, Dr. Amito did the messages in water. And so he took some water and he said, everyone pray over this water or send it a message like love or peace or whatever. Just one word, one message. And that water created an ice crystal that vibrated at that signal frequency. Okay. Yeah. Now, there's no way. Now, water, like clouds, are the most malleable energy that we have. So they would not do something that they're not told to do. So if I said peace and I said peace 10 times and it comes out the same crystal 10 times, then that's what the water got. That's the engram. That's the emotional program that you're transmitting, and that's what it received. Okay. Now, is that manifestation? In a way, it is. It's basically a form of just communication. And the water changed. Not only did it change chemically, it changed its whole crystalline contrast. So when they say that there's no snowflake that is the same, every snowflake is different, it's because the snow is reading the thoughts of the people that is coming down on and changes.
That's how you can relate something like attracts like in a geometric way.
Our thoughts have vibrations. They have frequencies. You put your thoughts out, it's there.
It's there. It's transmitted. Yeah. Yeah. And so
I was to ask about if somebody crossed into multiple dimensions. I think he was asking a couple of questions. But you mentioned that
you said you didn't believe in the dimension.
The word dimension.
Dimension is, like I said, it's flat land. If you don't understand what up is or down is, then how can you be in that dimension? It doesn't work that way. So whatever exists now, something of a higher dimension can come to our dimension, but we cannot go to their dimension where it's restrained by the laws of physics and gravity that keeps my body together.
Yeah, do you think it's just what about consciousness?
Consciousness can go. Yeah, consciousness goes all the time.
Sorry.
Our need for labels that we use these things. Humans have a desperate need to label everything, pigeonhole it, and just go, that's another dimension. That's extra dimensional. Because we don't understand it.
No, it's not another. It's in the same. Okay. There you go. There's the killer there. Okay. The creator is in his own energy field, resonating at all the frequencies that exist that we don't even understand yet. Okay. The creator is energy and exists everywhere. Okay. But that doesn't mean we're in heaven or the afterlife. It means that we're in a black pearl. Think of a black pearl floating in a sea of energy. And there are 50 of these black pearls floating in this sea of energy. Each one is its own universe.
I was going to say multiverse. That sounds like a
multiverse. It's its own universe. Now, 5, well, kind of our own 4 more are being explored, not by humans, but they can go from universe to universe. Okay. And they know that they're there, but they can't go to the 6th universe because the laws of physics aren't the same. So they can't go physically, but mentally they can. Okay. This is my argument with spending so much to get to Mars. Physically, to get to Mars is going to cost us trillions of dollars. Okay. But mentally, we can go to Mars, Ingo Swann went to Mars and surveyed the whole planet with his mind. Okay, why can't we go to other planets? But we have to know that they're there first. We have to know that they are there. If we do not know other dimensions exist, we can't go there. Okay.
A roll, right? So the planet eventually will die and we'll go into the sun. So we eventually have to move to keep the race going.
It's another 4 billion years. So
we got time.
But
we got to use our minds to do it. We've got to use our minds, not our, liquid hydrogen gas. We've got to use our minds.
So you just got to let go of the meat bag, but there needs to be a new meat bag. Or do we use things like AI?
Oh, we're just the ants to build it. Yeah.
Okay.
Become the possessor. Right? We talk about
let's not.
Thing.
Everybody,
the thing possessing the thing, and we make.
You should go back and watch 2001: Space Odyssey.
Actually, we saw a really cool movie called Possessor, and I'm going to make this recommendation out there. It's on Hulu.
Yeah,
it is freaking awesome. I mean, a really awesome sci-fi.
I'll check it out. Possessor,
and it's kind of approaching this concept that I just mentioned about. All right, so you're saying, all right, we can do it through our energy. We can go, but at that point, we're leaving the physical body back on Earth, right? To Mars.
Right.
Right, it's going to be the right temperature at that point.
Right. Now,
where do we go from there?
All dimensions, whether you have to first figure out that they're there, you have to find them first. But all dimensions have a special frequency, and if you do not understand that, you can't get there. Even if you had an astral projection or whatever, if you didn't understand it, you just couldn't get there. So there are thousands of different energies and frequencies, millions of them, that we only see a glimpse of.
Right.
So yeah, we're not really seeing everything that's there. We're just buffering what we can, and we're trying to get a grasp of it. That's why consciousness needs to be understood, not analyzed. You can analyze anything. You can psychoanalyze anybody. But
it's all theoretical. We need to. That's why we're here. It's as well as you.
Right.
We need to figure this shit out.
Right. We've got to. We all have a piece of the puzzle, but we're using our consciousness to do that, to figure this piece out. So we shouldn't be doing that. We should be doing it with equipment, like Reginald is using equipment. Like I use equipment to find out what the reality really is. And then be able to stand up and say, okay, this is it. This is the way it calculates. Now, in 10 years from now or 100 years from now, they're going to be looking at us like we're primitive man.
Another reset.
Yeah, right. Another reset or whatever. And then people will start all over again. But we can't, in my mind, we can't give up that progressive search, because the skeptics and the atheists always feel like they're going to win by just sitting there and being obstinate. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. It's not whether we believe it or not. This is our analysis. This is the evidence that we've retained.
Right.
So you have to believe in something, or you don't have to believe in anything at all.
Yeah. Well, we do believe in what you're saying, that we are an energy, and that it can move, and that things can be possessed, and that ideas behind, animism makes a lot of sense to us, that consciousness can, live within some other sort of immaterial or inert matter in terms of life, if you will. It kind of explains things like haunted objects.
Yeah, exactly. Any person, place, or thing can be haunted. And why? Because there's a connection, an energy connection to that thing. Okay, your grandparents haunt you because you're the grandson. They have a personal connection with you. Okay, an old house is haunted because the guy who built it's still walking around because he has a personal connection with that house.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. Let's go back to what we were saying about the manifestation. So if you were trying to manifest something, you were hanging on to this house so much, or you're so concerned about your family, you didn't want to, as we say a lot of times in the paranormal, cross over. You've manifested this thing that maybe watches over, maybe has an intelligence, but do you think maybe the other part of that person has actually moved on and they're being haunted by some manifestation that was created by the person that died?
A manifestation would only be a residual haunting, meaning an echo or a recording.
They wouldn't have an intelligence to it.
Right, it would have no intelligence. Yeah.
What if you had a great enough desire? Maybe it would create its own egregore.
Well, yeah, but why do that when you can just come back and revisit it? I mean, just because you go into the light doesn't mean you can't come back.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah, it sounds straightforward. Like you can go move this way, but you can go backwards, but you can't go forward. So we can't see them.
Yeah.
But
so
we do see them, which will take us back to that earlier point about the temple and Masonic Lodge in Salinas, Kansas, where Stephen Woodward takes a video of an apparition, a thing that has no body to reflect light, yet it happens.
Yeah. Now here's the key. Here's the key to the whole bag of wax. The whole bag of wax, the whole box of cornflakes, is that it distorts photons. It distorts photons. And if you set carefully in one place for a little while and just focus on your TV set, and you turn off some of the lights in your room, okay, you'll see photonic distortions floating around in your room. And that's the consciousness.
Somebody else's consciousness.
That's right. They're watching you do whatever you do, or they're just passing through.
It's a one-way thing.
It
just gets bigger and bigger as you go.
Right. But the thing is that because they distort photons, they distort visible light, that gives us an edge of that there's distorting something else. And that distortion is what we call, it's called the fish and the fishbowl effect. There is, if you put something in a fishbowl, the water is going to rise. It's displacement.
Yes.
This type of energy offers no displacement, but it offers distortion. And distortion is the way we track this physics through motion, through distortion of photons, and through an EVP, a transmission of signal. So that's how we are doing it. I mean, it is being done through its symptoms, its effect. How is it affecting our reality? And then that is what we observe, and then that's the direction we go.
I think it gets back to the manifestation, though. It's the intention of both probably the observer and the entity itself that creates the manifestation that you see.
No, absolutely not.
Why?
No, there is no agreement. There is no agreement. You don't have to agree to anything. I don't believe that there are stop signs.
Why?
And there are stop signs, aren't they?
Right.
Right. Well, I don't have to believe in ghosts, and yet the ghost exists.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's a good point.
There doesn't need to be an agreement.
Well, I wonder. I say this because people see ghosts and they see something that looks like their great uncle. But sometimes we know sometimes things step into roles.
Right.
And then they want to be, the haunted kid in the cemetery, the woman in white, and that sort of thing. So it makes me think there's sometimes, at least in some cases, there's an agreement.
Okay. Let me just lay it on you real thick here, guys. You're nice guys, and I don't want to push you over the edge. But
push us. Go. We'll go with you.
But every entity you've ever met or never met can still read your mind 100% of the time.
That's how they know.
So I was just going to say that's how they know our names as soon as we walk somewhere. And
that's right. So,
yeah.
So if they think that you have, if you have a weakness with Aunt Grace or whatever, that's the image they're going to take. They're going to call your name while you're asleep. And you're going to say, is that you, Aunt Grace? Well, they can masquerade as anybody. They can masquerade as anything or anybody. So you have to be, we have to sit in certain laws of karma.
Right. We're kind of going back to psychometry. Right. So some people have the skill. They can touch an object and then they know the past of that object, where somebody else's past, future, maybe present and future, all contained within some sort of, psychical DNA, we'll say, of that, from possessing that object, right? You're saying that spirits and other entities can get that just by looking at it, which we kind of believe, because we always say, how does they know our names? Whenever we get our names back on the spirit. So, things of that.
Then we walk right in and we're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
How do you know?
It's like it just read it. So it's very strange. Right? Freeze?
Do you guys have a ghost box on?
Are you hearing one?
Oh, yeah. It sounds like you're in a ghost box.
There you go.
I'm getting feedback.
Because everything just went blank.
I don't know. Maybe we could
Are we still echoing to you?
Yeah, I can't hardly hear you. It's distorted. Yeah. It's another dimension. Bleed. It's the bleed. You would be back out.
We got too close to the truth.
Yeah.
Any better?
No, it's the same.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
You want to drop and rejoin?
Yeah. Okay. I can do that. Okay, I can do that.
Okay, we'll do the same. When I see you back, I'm going to drop and rejoin. Any different, guys? Or is it still crazy? We don't know whose side it's on. It's in between. Still happening, Linda Morrison says.
Still?
Fish on.
I know I was reading that.
Good Lord.
Stephen Woodward, you're making me jealous with the darn New Mexico
Let's see. Are we
happening?
Any better?
Yeah. It's a lot better. Yeah, it's a lot better.
All right.
Oh, Jack, you're funny. Right? That's what I said when we dropped. I'm like, what the F is happening?
All right. Good to see.
Thank you, Chris.
Little bump in the. I think we got too close to the truth.
That's true.
Because our weather wasn't that bad.
And once you figure everything out, you have no reason to live. I think that's what happens.
No, there's always
your brain just shuts down.
There's always room for mystery, and
Well,
and I talk to a lot of people, and they think they've got it all figured out, and they say, "Well, there's no mysteries left on the planet. We've done everything there is to do." And I'm sitting there going, "Well, that's because you're just waiting for something to fall out of the sky, But it is baloney. We know as much. We know a little bit more than we did in the 70s. Okay, a little bit more, but that was a million years ago. Like I said, if you're still running around with Carl Sagan and the Condon Report from the 50s and 60s, you're just, that information is like so old. I wouldn't even trust it.
Right.
Well, that's what
we understand.
Get into the idea of simulation theory, because we learned so much in such a short period of time. We're seeing our technology seem to increase. You look at the span of time humans have even existed on this planet compared to the age of the planet.
How do you know that?
It's ridiculous.
Right.
But we're nothing.
But we dig up things that are kind of strange. There was a Japanese or Chinese tomb that was excavated and opened up. The lady that was inside this tomb had a ring watch from Seiko.
Oh, I saw that.
Which is only $4 now on most internet sites. And so someone took that from our time and sent it back 400 years.
That's what you think happened?
You think that's right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So mainstream science is saying that one of the archaeologists did that.
No, impossible.
They were bored and they just did that and put it on her.
Now there is this cell phone going around, this black cell phone that's running around. I don't know how real that is. I never really got deep into it, but it was dug up and it looks like a Nokia cell phone back about 10, 15 years ago. And it has the same buttons, but they're all in cuneiform. All the buttons are in cuneiform.
Cuneiform.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I don't know.
So it was a mock-up, like somebody had it. And that's why all the engravings of the Anunnaki, they have watches on. They have watches, and it's not the watch like the Timex.
Yeah, I've seen it. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
For years, I don't know how many years, I like to do crafts, and I have been wanting to make those and sell them.
What do you call those?
And I don't know. They're bracelets.
They're
not watches.
No.
They have flowers. Yeah. It's a flower.
Yeah,
like a flower.
It's a flower kind of thing. And so if you start looking, if you start looking, going back in our history, there are little nuggets of interesting artifacts, anonymous artifacts. And the guy who did the Forbidden Archaeology, Michael Cremo, I think it was, did Forbidden Archaeology, and he says he found tons of stuff, and a lot of it's in museums.
Yeah.
And they have just written it out of our record because it is non sequitur. It does not apply.
Yeah, it's like the Smithsonian. We understand.
Yeah. And but Michael Cremo says man's been around for billions of years. And we are just now coming to the realization of that. And I can tell you, we've been around for at least 400,000 years. And if not longer, there's been footprints in coal that date back 1 billion years. People, digging out coal of a coal mine will find a wheel, from a chariot embedded in the coal. They'll find a frog. They'll open it up and there'll be a frog jump out. And they found footprints or sandal footprints in. Yeah, it did.
Jumped out of the coal.
It jumped out of the coal. It went into a form of stasis. And when the gentleman broke open the coal, and this was in 17 something in England. It was 1750 or something like that in England. And the guy was stoking his fire with coal. and one of them broke open, and there was this big old bullfrog sitting there.
Come on.
So what happened in our past, this is the reason why we have fossils, is because things changed immediately, rapidly. And the London hammer, yes, okay, the London hammer is made out of iron and a little bit of nickel and chlorine. And so it does not rust. And it was buried in a segment of sediment where they found human footprints and dinosaur footprints in Brownsville, Texas.
I was just going to say, I thought that was Texas, not London.
It is, yeah. Well, they call it the London hammer. But okay, there's another one in Arkansas where this guy, he is on YouTube. This guy walks out into his backyard, and then there's this rock sitting there, right? This flat rock.
Yeah.
And he takes his camera and points down, and there is a cauldron buried in that flat rock. And he was trying to chip it out. And that cauldron is solid iron. There's also some columns or pedestals, columns in India that have not rusted since current times. And they've been around for thousands of years. Mm. There was metal rods. I don't exactly know what they were, but they were metal rods, and they were put into locations that go from India all the way into China. And they said that these were on ley lines and energy points. Well, they never rusted, and they couldn't melt them down. So however they were made was such an entirely different process than the way we deal with steel today, or iron, or whatever. Yeah, the London hammer is, oh man, there's so many things we dig up, and people are just like, well, better hide that. Oh, there's that skeleton. There's that skull, that skeleton. What's his name? Van Doniken. But it's in a museum in South America, and it's an ancient oxen skull. And in the center of it is a bullet hole.
Oh, yes.
And so whoever shot that thing had a gun.
Exactly.
And that goes back, 10,000 years or whatever.
Right. Yep. That is,
right. I think they found a screw inside. I think it was Siberia or Russia. I'm not sure.
Oh, they found a spark plug in California.
Yes.
And a geode. They had a geode, and it was a spark plug. So I
saw something about that as well.
We are repeating the same history over and over and over again.
Yeah, time-wise, it's absolutely possible. And things decay to a point where they're just gone. There just are no bones left. There's nothing. There's no fossils to find. It's gone, right? So to get enough layers, the continental shifts, and we've had different formations of the way
Joshua Dixon had said that earlier.
Works in the planet. What do we call that?
Gowanda. What?
Gowanda.
Rodinia.
Sure. Good.
Yeah, we had it all.
Pangea.
Pangea.
That's one of them before. Yeah. Pangea. Yeah. Different setup. And things could have existed. Maybe don't exist anymore. Maybe you could, if you went down deep enough in the Pacific Ocean, you might find some kind of remnants. It's very possible. Ooh. I mean, we're just theorizing here. I mean, don't think this is medical advice.
No.
But. You've been here before.
Okay. So off the coast of Japan, and there's a temple, an old temple off the coast of Japan. It's 500 feet below the surface of the water. Okay, so we now know that the water was below that, and the temple was created and used for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, the water started to rise and flooded it. And the same thing happened in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden was along the Tigris, Euphrates, and a couple of other rivers. And the idea was that the water came up and flooded it. So Garden of Eden's 500 feet below the surface. Okay, with the ice sheets that were melting, North and South Pole. Project Jump Room. Well, I can get into that in a little bit. But anyway, so the deal is that with the poles melting, we're looking at 3 or 4 feet of water rise. And if you look at that means most of New York and Venice and a couple of these other countries with cities on the coastline will be underwater. There'll be nothing. And it will just.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. So you have to pick your poison. Is it going to be a major shift where it just happens all at once and then stops for 20,000 years, or is it going to be a gradual shift where we have to acclimate to it all?
Right.
And and adapt by moving. I mean, right now there's over 2 to 5 million people on the move, and like Bangladesh, India, and all these other places which were low lying. And look at New Orleans. New Orleans is a prime example. In the swamps around Louisiana and Florida, they're filling up with water.
All right. Well, the land is actually sunk.
Right. Joshua Dixon had said that earlier. He's sinking.
Yeah.
He's in Florida.
Yeah. It's
now it's actually sinking for sure.
Now in Florida, it is basically coral. It's a coral
base.
It's all sand.
And it's just sand on top of it. Well, it's 2 or 3 inches above sea level. Okay, so now it's 2 or 3 inches above sea level. Wait till it goes up to 2 feet. The sea level rises 2 more feet or 3 more feet.
Well, my mom, she lives in Florida, just real quick, and they're dredging, and it costs a wicked lot of money to dredge.
Oh my God, billions of dollars, man, billions.
Beach after the storm, it has no beach anymore.
Right.
Where are the sea turtles going to lay their eggs? You know what I mean? Right. So, we understand.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
The hurricanes are a sign of global warming. It's just a fact. Okay. The strength of the hurricane comes from heat, just pure heat. And it will always go toward heat because heat fuels it. So that's why New Orleans, Miami, Havana, they put off tremendous amounts of heat. And if you could see the thermal graph of the port of New Orleans, the port of Miami, the port of Texas there, forgot it. Galveston, yeah. If you see that, you'll just see the heat coming out of it. And a lot of that has to do with sewage, and a lot of other has to do with just water runoff. But that is where the hurricanes get their energy. And for them to stay alive, they've got to go toward the warm water, the warmth.
Yeah.
And that's why when Kritina, no, it's not Kritina. It's anyway, the Russian Tsar, princess, whatever. Anyway, hit New Orleans. It stopped everything. And if you saw the thermal graph, Katrina, right? If you look at the thermal graph, New Orleans was just cold. It just went cold after that hurricane. So we knew automatically, okay, there will be no more hurricanes hit New Orleans. And where'd they go? Hurricane Wilma, Hurricane Helen. They all went to Galveston. Yeah, Maria went to Galveston.
Terrible.
And then the others came down. They hit Puerto Rico. They hit Cuba. They then went up to Miami.
Puerto Rico is still devastated.
Yeah, and so you can take it. You could if you're really like taking this all in, you would say, hell, I'm getting out of Florida. I'm getting out of Puerto Rico. I'm getting out of Cuba. I'm going to go to high land. I'm going to go away from the danger zone. Yeah. But a lot of people don't. And then I don't see how they're getting insured. Because if you lose your home 2 or 3 times in a hurricane, they're not going to insure you anymore.
That's my mom. FEMA. And FEMA doesn't pay much. Believe me, she had to get a new roof, and it took her like 5 years to get a new roof.
Yeah. Okay.
Insurance is a big shit.
Yeah, everybody may remember John Stossel. John Stossel was a news reporter for a long time. He had a house on the oceanfront property. It got hit by a hurricane, destroyed it, right? Mm-hmm. He had government flood insurance, and they rebuilt the whole thing right back where it was. So you can get government flood insurance, and they'll rebuild you right back to where you were, totally the way it was, 100%.
Well, insurance is a tricky thing.
Right.
Yeah. I had an interesting question out there for you. We know somebody going through an insurance issue right now.
Yes.
Flooding in his basement, our friend Greg. Dr. Lynch, do you still believe that the Greys are responsible for cattle mutilation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%.
God, here we
now
go.
That's a good subject.
We love
100%. 100%.
Cattle mutilations. Why do they laser the face?
We don't love the cattle mutilations, but we love the topic of it. It's not just cattle.
I like talking about this because it's so interesting.
It is. What do you think?
Well, okay. It's a long story. Okay,
Yeah,
let's just put it in perspective. I don't know how much time we've got left. I'm looking at the clock here, buddy. Okay. Now and I know. Don't try to lie to me. We all love a good hamburger, don't we? We just love a good hamburger. Real 100% grade A beef, don't we? And we will drive miles. I drove from St. Louis to Williams, Arizona to get one of the best hamburgers in the world. Anyway,
come on.
No, I'm not exaggerating. I did.
I'm sorry. You need to come up to Federal Hill. But anyway.
Okay. So we all love a good hamburger, and what we're going to do is we're going to wrestle that cow to the ground, and we're going to kill it, and we're going to turn it into hamburger, right? And we're going to eat it, right? No problem. Well, what if we don't eat the cow? We ingest its blood and hemoglobin, its plasma, blood plasma. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we do that by soaking in it. Now, everyone takes a magnesium or Epsom salt bath. Everyone I know does. The magnesium in the Epsom salt soaks through your skin and gives you, for a short time, a boost of magnesium. And then that helps you with your joints and your muscles and all that stuff. And we do it all the time.
Question. What happens if you're allergic to the magnesium?
Then you'll get psoriasis.
Didn't get psoriasis.
Okay. Laser-faced cow.
Please, laser-faced cows.
Okay. So the deal is that they're checking on our food supply. They've been doing this for a long time. It goes back to the Greys.
Okay.
The Greys. Okay. As we detonated nuclear bombs outside of Las Vegas and around Area 51 and Salt Flats and Trinity Base. Mm-hmm. Oh, excuse me. Trinity.
White Sands, New Mexico. Yeah.
White Sands. We blew up hundreds of Hiroshima and Nagasaki type bombs.
Yes, we have.
And then we just kept getting bigger and bigger until we got to the point of saying, we can't do this in public anymore. We have to bury them underground. And we still do underground testing today out at Yucca Flats. Okay, so Yucca Flats is one of the areas that that we just detonated bomb after bomb after bomb, 2 or 3 a day. The radiation went up. The plume of radiation went up and went all the way across to the East Coast. And irradiated everything. Okay, cattle eat the grass, which was affected first by that radiation, and they developed sicknesses. Well, the human race was so stupid that they just went out and just killed the cattle and ate them. And now we have Peyronie's disease. We have certain type of dementia. Jacob's
Parvo, right?
Yeah. And then all this spongiforma dementia in the brain is pretty well caused by the pyrons in the cattle.
Bacteria eating flesh.
Right. So the Greys came down to check not only our food supply, which they do on occasion, they come down and they check everything else. Whales, dolphins, elk, cows. And they will autopsy them. They'll kill them and autopsy them. And they take the blood and they put it into a vat. And then they turn the spigot on and take a bath in it. You have to soak in it for like so many hours.
It's like Countess Bathory or something.
Yeah.
Pardon? Like Countess Bathory.
Yes, right.
In the virgin's blood to maintain her youth.
From your glade.
We told you we were going to do that.
And so there was a woman, she wasn't a queen or anything, but she was like a countess back in the day. And she would take 16-year-old virgins and kill them and take a bath in their blood.
Right. Countess Bathory. Right.
And that
as well.
Yeah. And it would soak into her skin, and the acids from that blood made her look better. I mean, we call it hydroponic acid today, or hyaluronic acid today. I mean,
yes, we do.
Same idea. Okay. Hydrochloric acid. Okay, and the Greys and the Greys just take all that hemoglobin, all that blood plasma, and they just bathe in it. They sit in a vat and bathe in it. And like a frog, their skin's like a frog, like an amphibian, and it is porous and it sucks all that in, all that nutrition, and that's how they do it. And they only have to do it like once a week or so, depending on the amount of hemoglobin, iron, magnesium, all the electrolytes that are in that blood. And so that's when you start to see, they're not eating it. They're not eating the cow. They're autopsying the cow, and then they take out the hemoglobin, and then they will drop that cow.
Yeah.
And Linda Moulton Howe will come out and say, "Oh yeah, this is a cattle mutilation."
Moulton Howe.
Well, it is, because if you look at it, why do they laser their faces? Why do they laser their testicles? Oh, that's a good question.
And it's a clean line, right?
Yeah, it's lasers. Yeah, and we have the same thing now. We have the same thing in Kirkland Air Force Base in level 27 or whatever. They have the portable laser for cauterizing wounds and by doing surgery in the field. And
why? Why would they laser the face, like the half of the face? What do they want from the cow?
It's an autopsy. It's just an autopsy.
But it's almost every single time. Don't they know what they're doing? They're smarter than us. I mean,
okay. You want me to theorize or just tell you the truth?
Oh, just tell it.
Please.
We're curious. We want to know about laser face cats.
And Jack, I love that comment. We're all altered beasts.
We're all
altered beasts. We're all hybrids. I mean, there's no okay. Right. So say, what if you had a population of cows on another planet that were getting sick or could not reproduce for some biological or genetic reason? Well, the best way to do is get primarily better genetic material. And so that's the first thing you go, reproduction organs, other cells that would be required for cloning, such as the eyes, lips, stomach. And then you would take all those cells and then you start hybridization, cutting and splicing through CRISPR into a new cell, a new organism, which would then thrive on other planets. Okay. And if they don't reproduce, then you have to scrap the whole batch and then go back out and do it again. So sometimes things work and they don't have to come back. They don't come back for a couple of years. And then things don't work out on planet XYZ. So they come back to the original source of the DNA, which is our cattle, take it up or just take it with them. And then they go to another planet, let them out, run free, naked and free, and say, go multiply and be prosperous. And that's what they do. There was a gentleman who was looking for elk.
Yes.
And he was on the missing 411, the UFO connection.
David Pilates
new show. Right. Well, this guy was interviewed on In Search of with Leonard Nimoy back in the 70s, right after it happened. I
love that show.
And he never confessed to what he did on that documentary that David Pilates did. Okay. So the thing is that they were looking for elk. They were harvesting elk.
Yep. And
they picked him up in the circumstance. But in the circumstance, he had scars on his lungs from asthmatic infections. And there were scars on his lungs. And he had a scar on his kidney, is the same thing. Anyway, they treated him and they set him back down on the ground. And they said, well, we don't need you now. But we're going to take the elk. And they took the elk, and he's complaining that they took his elk, But right. when he was X-rayed and physically examined, he was in better shape than when he left. And there's no explanation for it.
Exactly. I heard that. It was, we heard that his lungs were like healed.
Right. Yeah. So let's say you go to let's say you have a planet. Let's say you have a planet that has no theoretical humanoid life on it. No bipedal humanoid life.
Okay.
Well, what you're going to do is through CRISPR or through your AI, you're going to genetically modify some cells that will sustain that planet. Its gravity, its sunlight, its temperatures, all this stuff. And you want to put a bipedal humanoid on it. Well, you may have to take 2 or 3 different genes, splices from 2 or 3 or 4 different hybrids to put that on that planet and make it work. So it's the same story with the Anunnaki. They came here, they saw something, and then they decided, oh yeah, that's Linda Moulton. Yeah, that's Linda Moulton Howe's fatal harvest. Yeah. But yeah, all this tissue is for research and it's for basically cloning. You can clone with that tissue.
Bothers me. It's sad.
Yeah, you see it again and again, but it's weird that they take it from that particular area.
all particular areas. The eye.
I kind of get the reproductive thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that, they might have.
But they take the stomachs and there's no like incision. I mean, come on.
It is very mysterious. But I would like to get off of that, maybe talk about your new show because we're premiering.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
To premiere this is
on our network. Now, I'm not going to say this is already a freely available episode.
Yes.
On your YouTube, and we can direct people there as well.
Yeah.
And please feel free to talk about it. But at 11:30, another link. We have your new show, Off the Cuff.
Yeah. Now the problem is that the files are so big, I can't quite get them all in your Dropbox. But it is. I'm trying to make it so I can get into your Dropbox and everything else. So you can go to my YouTube page, and see them there if you can't get them on your network or whatever. So I'm doing a new sideline because I try to be very intellectual. I try to be very nice and honest and open with all my data. And now I'm getting to the point of like saying, well, I need more of a soapbox type of thing. And so I decided to do Off the Cuff. Now, don't confuse it with the police show that's on YouTube. That is that there's doing, because they're talking about juveniles doing crime. So this is kind of off the cuff because I can talk about anything I want whenever I want to talk about it and get that information out there. Some people may think it's funny. Some people may just think, well, Dr. Lynch has just gone crazy and this is just a way of doing it. But anyway, so I'm trying to be a little more, jocularity there, a little more poking fun at everything than anything else. So I'm trying to be a little bit less serious and then just be kind of.
I like this. I love your idea. These shows are about 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
Kind of like bite-sized segments. You're focused on one topic.
Yeah. I'm trying to get them a little bit shorter, like 15 minutes or something like that. But
yeah. 15, 20 minutes. Here's an idea, it's a thought, and got it and go. And I think it's a wonderful idea. I love the shows that we've watched so far. They're really good. Yeah. And we want to give you a big, thanks for allowing us to podcast them.
Now I'm getting some beratement. You might say I'm being berated a little bit. As long as I don't get too deep into the topic, I'll be okay. But so I try to keep them a little bit light, and I try to make them a little funny, and I try to do this. But these are things that have been bothering me for a long time, and it's like no one's ever bringing this up. No one's ever like set up a format to where we can bring this up. And I think that's what we need to do is get a format to where we can be relaxed and yet talk about these things that irk people, because I get irked a lot. It's like, and in the show Skeptics versus Atheists, that's what irks me the most, is that people say, oh, I'm a skeptic, when actually down deep they're an atheist. They don't believe in anything. And so I try to define the difference between a skeptic, an atheist, and a believer. And then that's the name of the show is called Off the Cuff.
It's Off the Cuff.
Off the Cuff.
And wherever you're watching this, sorry, Echo Leaf, you're on YouTube. So on our Dark Horse Paranormal Productions channel, you can find this at 11:30 in about 15 minutes. It's going to premiere. You can also find it on Michael Lynch. If you look up Michael Lynch on YouTube, he's got his episodes out there right now live. But we're all going to watch at 11:30.
Okay, well, I'm not saying it's my best work, but it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. I get a kick out of it, and
great.
And I'm not.
Maybe we can make this more of a regular thing.
Yeah. I think what we need to happen is be a little bit less glum or grim, and be a little bit more, positive and progressive, and not as grim as we have been. And I know I've been grim for a long time, but that's just because of the genre. But now I think we've got enough evidence to push the genre into a more open and even keel on these topics.
It's just kind of like the Monty Python thing, the knocking at the door, and there's somebody here about the reaping.
may I have your liver? You know, it's like,
No, have your liver.
No. Yeah. Well, I didn't eat the fish. I didn't eat the fish. Well, you're dead anyway.
I'm not dead yet. I'm happy.
Right?
What is it? Your
We could go down a
father's
Monty
smells like
Python.
your mother
rabbit
smells like elderberries, and
your father was a hamster and your mother smelt of. Or your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of.
Yes,
elderberries.
thank you. I should know that.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a killer rabbit.
It's behind the rabbit. No, it is the rabbit. You know.
I love that. I love that.
Monty Python.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of Jon Stewart when he was on Comedy Central and did the Daily Report, and so I kind of did my little homage to that, and that's what I think that we need. I think we need some levity in these serious conversations and times with this in this field, and I think I'm not there to be poking fun at anything. I'm just saying people have missed a lot. To get where they're at. And now we need to go back and say, okay, if this is the way it works, we should all be in agreement and let's just move on, not sit here and rehash the whole thing over and over again, So, but like I said, I'm just picking out a genre,
Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast show that maybe we would throw these on like right after. And it might be a way to get them out there in front of some people. And we love them. So it might be a cool thing.
It's awesome
for people to check out. And like I said, I made a separate link for it so that it could stay in its own entity and you could just go back and the archive. So wherever
however you want to do it. You guys got the premiere. You got the premiere of the shows. So
season 1, episode 1.
Yeah, that's right. And then we'll kind of go from there. But I'm going to try to get some interviews in and, talk to people and things like that down the road. I didn't want to do anything to overstep my technology or anything like that. But
I think the tech is great. It looks awesome.
It looks awesome. You did an awesome job.
So we're really excited. And we're looking forward to more of these.
Yeah, absolutely. What is you can look at the Dark Ages as a very glum time, or you can just watch Monty Python, and it's more, it's more acceptable. It's a little bit more levity. And it's kind of the way we need to look at it. I know everybody's out there in the field, they're doing a lot of research and they're getting a lot of evidence and everything like that. But man, relax, enjoy the moment.
Yes.
Stop.
Earlier. Yes.
Stop and smell the roses,
That's
right?
Stop and smell the roses, relax a little bit.
That is the meaning of life, my friend. I don't know. We're just pitching this stuff out there.
Trying to be like you.
This 3D matrix slows us down. We can't move as fast as we want to, as our consciousness wants to. We have to take our time, and maybe that's the lesson.
Yeah.
I need to ask you a question. Do you have a spirit box on, or do you have people at your house?
My wife and son are over there talking about his school work and everything.
I'm like,
his professors called in and said that they were sick, and so he goes, "Good, I can start my weekend now." And it's only Thursday, so but he does hit it pretty hard. But at the same time, we all do. I can spend probably 6 to 8 hours a night just going over the latest, and greatest paranormal stuff, that comes through. And do not believe that you have to order your parapsychological journal to be in that club. There's 2 or 3 magazines out there that you can become memberships with and get their yearly subscriptions and stuff like that and read them. And it's like, oh man, no way. It's just too crude. I just can't go that way anymore. So like I said, so a lot of my research is from people who are doing research, and then I try to replicate what they're doing. And if I can replicate it successfully, then I think that's an open avenue. That's a good direction. I do have a show out there called A Hack versus a Genius, and the difference between a hack and a genius. And I want everyone to be that genius. I want everyone to enjoy being that guy who may have been laughed at because he wasn't into football or baseball or whatever, but that guy is going to be the next genius that's going to really give something to the paranormal world. And that's what this is all about. It's quit being a hack and go out there and be a genius, be that genius you're meant to be.
Be who you are.
Yeah.
That's right.
And, on that note, I want to leave a little bit of time between shows.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because we'll be able to have people take a break and, take 5, and then we're going to come right back. There's another link, whatever platform you're watching this on now.
Yes.
There's a link there to see season 1, episode 1.
This is our surprise.
Off the cuff with Dr. Michael Lynch. It has been our pleasure, sir.
Yes.
It's been my pleasure. Anytime.
This has been great.
You.
I want to
Thank you.
And thank our audience for sticking around and getting through the crazy audio issues. That was quite a hiccup we went through, I guess.
It was the grays. It was the grays.
Yeah,
they do that.
Something like that.
Something was dry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many times the government will not admit that their stuff is being tampered with, but it is because of an off-world society that is monitoring us very heavily. I'm saying. So anyway, thank you very much. I'll let you guys sign off, and we'll do this again very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, sounds good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Come back, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
All right, and that's all the time we have for, because we're going to take 5 and come back and watch the show, and we'll be around. Thank you for all your comments and
thank you, everybody.
watching the show. We love you guys. Thank you. We'll see you Saturday. We have Les Velez coming on Saturday. It's going to be an awesome show. We're going to talk about ufology in depth and abduction phenomena. You'll love it. See you then.